Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Luigi's Mansion. In the last part we finished off Area 2 and started off Area 3 getting past Biff Atlas, our first optional portrait ghost for the area in the process. And now we're in the main second floor hallway, which is going to be the main hub of sorts for our entire stay here in Area 3. Now, this hallway area, in fact, isn't that hard to navigate on the whole. My big issue with it comes from the fact that in the case a boo flees, especially into the room to my left, you're in for some backtracking like nothing else, as that's all the way back in Area 1. That piece of backtracking was actually technically added later in development, seemingly too, because I think I mentioned this last part. There are prototype designs for the mansion's map that I think you can still find in the game's code and see on cutting room floor that actively have doors that lead from the room that led to the balcony, where we found that Toad save point earlier in the game, to this hallway. And there's also one that leads from the foyer on the second floor to the east into this hallway that just were removed at some point in development. And something about that just always kind of bothered me, because it's, overall, the mansion is pretty convenient to get around, except that in specific. And it's just weird. So we came into this washroom to melt that specific ghost in the toilet with the water elemental we got from the toilet right here, just so we can get some more money. You never actually need to enter this specific bathroom, but you might as well while you're here, just for the extra cash and all that. Now, notably, every single area in the game does have at least one Toad to its specific area of level design. Like Area 1 had the one on the balcony, as well as the one in the foyer, but that one's technically separate considering it's in the first room of the game. Area 2 had one in the one bathroom. Area 3's is the one we saw in the outhouse last time, and that's probably the most out-of-the-way Toad to go save at out of all of them. Even the one that's in Area 4 is a little bit easier to access for that area, scale-wise, at least. Which makes saving in Area 3 probably the hardest outside of just relying on boos like I tend to whenever I revisit the game. So I had to use water in that bathroom to actually get that treasure chest, but now I want to actually go back and grab the ice element and head into this room for our next portrait ghost. Oh, hello there, sorry, am I interrupting something here? Just give me a moment, need to check something. Oh, hello.
Piping hot shower.
Well, 'twould be a shame if I made that frigid cold.
Achoo!
This is Miss Petunia, the bathing beauty. She's also one of the harder bosses in the game, only because you don't really have a lot of room for error because of how small the bathroom here is in specific. With that said, as long as you keep yourself to a wall like I've recommended before in prior boss fights, she'll go down in one go pretty easily compared to some other bosses at least. I had her interrupt my capture at least 3 or 4 times in test recording though. And defeating her nabs us our next key, but notably, there's 2 rooms we can access on this floor at the moment, and they'll both give us a key. You need to do both eventually, but you can do these rooms in technically any order. With that said, we're immediately going to head next door for our next one. In here lies our next portrait ghost. This is Nana, the scarf-knitting granny. She's still knitting the scarf she never finished in life, and now stretches 871 feet. Before we deal with her, though, I want to grab what money I can in here, especially, namely, the speedy spirit that is located within the chair to my left at the moment. In the meanwhile, since I didn't read Miss Petunia's bio, the missed ghost runner-up from 6 years ago. She hasn't done much model work lately. Gee, I wonder why. Is it because she died? Probably. There does seem to be a blend of ghosts that are actually ghosts and ghosts that were paintings to begin with, let alone ghosts to begin with in this, which I find kind of interesting. What do you gotta say, Nana?
Hey, it's a funny man. Should I play with him?
In order to play with her, investigate the scarf right there and knock her yarn around, and then start picking it up and shooting it into her. Notably, she'll also give you a hint for Petunia if you go to this room first. Namely, I think I investigated later, the bookcase on the center of the northern wall will actively have a hint on chilling down Petunia with the ice element in the case you didn't have that or know that yet. Which is nice to have. I like that they actually still gave some pretty soft hints for things to do here. Well, they're more, well, no, I shouldn't say they're soft. They're very direct, but finding them is a little soft-guided. Getting a gold rank on Nana can be surprisingly difficult because of the table in the exact center of the left side of the room, which is otherwise pretty empty. With that said, something I don't think I've talked about yet, getting a gold rank just requires getting the big pearl. I think I mentioned that part at least already. But since that just requires doing 90 damage in one go, as long as you do 90 damage in a row. It doesn't matter if it's at the start or end of the health bar. So, with Nana, for instance, there, since I got her from 100 to 7 or so, I got the big pearl. But say if I got her down to 91 and lost her, but then got her from 91 down to 1, I would get the big pearl still and would still be considered a gold rank for the portrait frame. Which is very handy to realize because, while I've done much harder things than getting all gold ranks in this game, the few times where a gold rank is really annoying, having that slight extra layer of protection and second chancery there really goes a long way. So say you start capturing a boss ghost and they start in a really disadvantageous position for you, you can just let the capture go as soon as you can to potentially still get a gold rank. Now, something I'm not sure about when it comes to the boos, and this is largely because there's just not many opportunities for this to happen unless you actively sort of try to make it happen, is I'm not sure if there's an upper limit for how many boos you can have loaded in a single room by either pushing them in that direction or them fleeing away from you. I think at most I've had 3 in a room, maybe? But at the same time, something that also happens, especially notably usually towards endgame in this for me, is usually I'll have a boo return to the room it started in, and I have to actually find it again. It'll still keep its HP progress in the case it fled from me and fled from me again, but because of either the order of operations or anything like that, it just returned to where it once was. It's usually like the second to last boo that does that for me in the final area, but we'll talk more about that specifically when it actually even happens in this very LP later on. Definitely a little weird by the feel of it, but it's not the worst at the end of the day again. Despite how annoying it is to get from, say, Area 4 or 3 back to Area 1 in the case you need to, barring the use of mirror teleporting, the mansion is small enough where, however the boos flee is never going to be that big of an issue. That's a random gold mouse bite there, by the way. In practice recording, I was going back and forth to that location for about 10 minutes trying to make that one spawn. So, of course, it spawns pretty quickly here on my actual attempt through level design. That's great. Just great. So, since we got 2 keys there, we can go to 2 distinct rooms to continue on, but I want to head to the one that Petunia gave us the key for first, as I find that just to be a little more comfortable for the game's difficulty curve. I think the more efficient way to do this, though, is to actively take a mirror teleport from, like, the bathroom back over to the foyer, then head up to the other door we just got the key for, and then come back to this one on the way back to Area 3, but what time I lose not doing that is minimal at most, so it's not a big deal. And here lies another portrait ghost for us. This is Slim Bank Shop, the lonely pool shark, or the lone competitor in the 3DS release.
You want some of this?
Slim's a legend in the world of competitive pool. Too bad he's never played a living soul. Slim is notably an optional boss fight, by the way, as our actual destination in this area is the room to our right at the moment, and you can just enter that door outright. You don't get a key for beating him. Notably, before we actually go into beating him himself, there's also a speedy spirit in this room in one of the chairs surrounding the table in the southeast corner. As for how Slim himself works, though, he circles the pool table constantly. But whenever he sets up the cue ball, he'll hit it into the 3 balls that are set up, and you need to vacuum them up and then shoot them into him to actively stun him. Doing 3 of those will guarantee the stun, and then you can actually start damaging his HP. The orientation of the pool table in specific is what can make this boss a little rough to get a big pearl on, as most angles you're going to start the capture at, he's probably going to be either across the table for you or immediately try to dash across it to try and break away from you. So it's very easy to just not get a high rank on this one. This is a boss I think I'll more often than I just get a silver on. But ultimately, not too hard. Notably, I think one of the statues in the courtyard in the back is actually directly just his model, but as stone, which is kind of interesting. But at the end of the day, the biggest danger here is watching out for the pool balls as they bounce around. Depth perception can also be an issue in this boss fight, though, as I mentioned before, the depth perception for where you're aiming when you're trying to shoot something out at something else is a little iffy. And Area 3 is where that entire issue really becomes its worst throughout the game. There we go. One more portrait goes down and another big chest with some good moolah in it ready for us. Before we grab that and the boo, though, of course, ceiling fans. My favorite thing to get money from in the game, I said totally seriously and not at all lying through my teeth. It really is just like how much longer it takes to get money from them compared to most other objects in the game. Like that extra step adds a surprising amount of annoyance compared to how brief everything else is in the game. Again, as whenever you open a chest like this, make sure you get all the coins and dollar bills you can first before grabbing the gold bars or the unique items like gemstones, as the time it takes to pick them up actually subtracts from the timer for money disappearing. Now, I believe I got into this slightly earlier on in the LP, but you may have noticed this far into the game, we're largely doing the same actions just in different room aesthetics as we go through. Luigi's Mansion 2 and 3, for their own shortcomings, do give each specific sub-area its own not only aesthetics, but also usually unique gimmicks to make it stand out a little bit more than the others in some form or fashion, and that does go a long way to making the individual areas of 2 and 3 a bit more enjoyable, even with their own weird mechanical misgivings and stuff like certain boss fights in Luigi's Mansion 2. But at the same time, there is a part of that really just likes how... I'm going to use the word cohesive just because it feels like it's the right word, but I might be using the wrong word there. That it makes the entire mansion feel like it's one lived in space rather than just a collection of levels, which... There is something to that I think is very valuable, especially in what's meant to be a horror-adjacent game. So, this room, we got a projector room here. We gotta deal with more of the grabbing ghosts, but they're invisible, once again, just like the room we first got the fire element medal in. However, we don't have a mirror to see them in this time. Instead, we need to rely on the shadow from the projector. Sometimes the depth perception here can be a little weird, but again, like I mentioned in the room where we first fought invisible versions of these guys, as long as you focus on where the dust first appears, where they spawn, catching them using that is so much easier than actually relying on the visual mechanic here. Also, this is very minor, but it's something that's weirdly bothered me about this room since I was a kid. This is a projector room, meaning they're here to watch some sort of film reels. Why are there no chairs? I feel like you would kind of want those in some sort of home theater to, you know, watch what you have, but... Oh well, it's a nitpick at the best definition of what I just said there. That's just bothered me since I was a child. Area 3, though, as you may have noticed so far, definitely demonstrates a bit of an interesting pacing thing they do here, where the later you get in the game, the more likely you're going to run into a portrait ghost in a room than any of the standard ghost varieties. They'll still show up decently regularly, but more times than not, you're going to walk into a room and find a portrait ghost than a mob of standard ghost varieties. And I really do like that because it makes every room feel a little more important, I think, than what 2 and 3 do. Oh, hi there. We found Mario's glove. Ew, it's a little sweaty. Why is his hat the only thing that got washed? Also, fun thing you can do here with the projector, if you vacuum it back far enough, it resets to a get out of here poster. We saw one of these back in the one washroom as well, if you absorbed the weirdly Munsters-looking Frankenstein poster. Just a fun little thing you can do. I found that on accident on my first playthrough. Namely, trying to catch the boo here. Oh, Shamboo! Shamboo, notably, is our 20th boo, so we're 40% of the way done with capturing them already.
Well done, Luigi, my boy. This time I have a special bit of information for you. Ghosts other than boos will not appear in the direction you're looking, so you'll have to sneak up on them backward. But I bet you knew that already. Okay, now send me the boo and all the data you got.
Notably, the dialogue that Gadd can say when you capture Boo is slightly randomized to the point where there's actually some that's sort of lore important you might completely miss towards the time you're in, like, Area 4 or late Area 3. And I've always found that a little weird. I'll note the specific instance I'm talking about, though, when we actually get there. For right now, though, our destination is actually the main hallway of Area 1 from back in Part 2. As the key we got from Nana allows us to access the only door we have yet to access in that hallway. It would probably be faster if I actually had used the mirror in the billiards room to teleport here, but again, oh well, not that much time lost. Now, it's in this room, notably, that I miss the only Speedy Spirit I miss in the LP. Notably, here in the Twins room, you want to investigate their bunk bed, as the Speedy Spirit, I believe, is within that, and since I miss it, I can't get it later on. Oopsie daisy. Sad thing is, too, I distinctly remember while playing this thinking, I swear I'm missing some money in here. What was it? It wasn't this. Maybe it was just a random spawn that didn't work out for me correctly for right now. I'll just come back later. No, it's the Speedy Spirit. Whoopsie. So we already got a hint on what to do in this room, actually, all the way back when we first entered Neville's room. One of the books shouted this out. What you want to do is take your vacuum, face up, and point it at this mobile and rotate it in, I think, either direction for a good little bit of time. Having it follow your vacuum trail can definitely be a little bit finicky, but it doesn't take too much to actually trigger what we need to have happen here. There we go.
Hey, mister, what are you doing over there all by yourself? Hey, why don't you play hide and seek with us?
Okay, let's play.
Yay! Okay, we're gonna hide now. Wait outside.
The twins actually have a bit of a mini game to catch them properly, as when we leave the room, they're going to call us back in.
Okay, you can come on in now.
The twins are now going to be randomly hiding in 2 of 5 boxes across the room. If you don't find them both on your first try, you need to leave and try again. With that said, you can tell which boxes they're in by vacuuming them.
Not bad, mister.
Namely, if a twin is in a box, the box will actively shake when you vacuum it. If it doesn't shake, they're not in that one at all.
Hey, that's not right. Play fair, cheater.
So the twins are a bit of an annoying boss fight in that they do actively have 2 separate health pools. So this boss technically has 200 health as opposed to the usual 100. And we need to actively vacuum them off of their vehicles to start as well. With that said, getting a gold rank here is easier than you'd think, as whenever there's a multi-part boss fight like this, only one part of the boss fight actually will drop pearls and thus determine your frame ranking at the end of the area. Namely, in this case, it's the red twin that actively counts for your endgame ranking. Notably, though, otherwise, as for the twins themselves, they are Henry and Orville, the twin brothers, or the Shy Twin Brothers in the 3DS release. The twins like to play hide and seek, but since they both hide, the game never seems to end. Thankfully, because of how empty the room is towards the bottom half of it, using that as a reliable place to capture either brother is very useful. And let's see what we get in this specific treasure chest, why don't we? That's another Mario item by the looks. We found Mario's shoe. It smells like Mario's feet. I don't like that that has a distinct scent that Luigi can recognize. But I guess maybe the mushrooms in the diet maybe makes that a bit different smelling. Ugh. Boorus here notably is the first boo I'm actually going to speed up the footage of capturing past a certain point, as because of how small Area 1 is, they very frequently just flee from room to room and just make things get real tedious real quick like.
Well done, Luigi, my boy. This time I have a special bit of information for you. Hey, since you cleaned the place up anyway, it wouldn't hurt to help out the plants in the mansion. You know what plants like, don't you? Okay, now send me all the boo and I'll do anything you got.
So now we got the hint for actually using the water element on the plants across the mansion. So we notably now have 4 Mario items, and the toad back in the courtyard mentioned 5. But since we have 4 and I'm near it anyway, we actually want to head back to Area 2 and take them to Madame Clairvoya, the only portrait ghost who we didn't actually tackle when we were first there. As we can show them to her and maybe get some more hints about what's going on around here. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in Part 7 we're going to do just that and then head back to the main chunk of Area 3. See you guys then.